So, boys, today we're going to be taking a look at my run at the Melbourne Regional Championships over the last weekend. Now, this was actually the biggest regional championship we've had in Australia, I believe, or at least in a very, very long time. Yeah, it was a regional with over 300 players, which honestly doesn't sound that impressive. But for Australia, it really, really is. It's actually, quite a good showing, especially too, because I believe Brisbane, which was like 2 months ago, had about 220 players. And unfortunately, your boy actually placed worse at this event than I did at the last one. At Brisbane, I got 22nd. At Melbourne, I got 23rd. So look, both still pretty good showings. Yeah, let's essentially go through my run, right? So we'll jump over here on Showdown. And first off, we'll start off with my team. Now, I did a bit of a recap on this yesterday, or sorry, 2 days ago, I guess now. So if you're interested in that, go check it out. It's basically the team I use, right? It's essentially just Chi-Yu, Flutterbane, Tornado Sun. Got a little bit of Raging Bolt in here, and then just Urshi and Ogerpawn, right? This was just a really good team. It plays to my style a lot, which is just very hyper offensive. I like to go first. I like to pick up KOs. And yeah, I really, really like to just, I guess, push the pace with it, right? But quickly jumping back over to the team here, you'll see I end up going 4-0 to start, losing 3 straight, winning my final 2 to snag the 32nd place at the, getting 32, basically being the last guy who gets stopped cut. Then we go win, loss, win, win, loss. It was a very, very sad day 2 for me as well, in particular. And I'll get to it when I speak about my match with Phil. But the loss to Phil really hurt because I essentially had the set won, and then ended up having to go to sudden death. So that was really sad, but we will kind of touch on that when we get there. But yeah, I guess let's just start. Let's start the run off from the very beginning, right? So, very first game of the day here, we get I'm not even gonna try to pronounce it, but this is G-Man. G-Man's a homie. We spent a lot of time together at the regional. Super nice guy. I think coming into the event, he was ranked number 5 actually in Australia. Oceania, I should say, in terms of CP. Super nice dude. Loved his energy. And as you can see here, a very hyper offensive team as well, right? He's got the Tornadoes, you've got the normal Ogre Pawn. Of course, the Urshifu Rapid paired up with Tornadoes in the range is very, very good. Landorus Incarnate also in the range. He's got the Brian Hands, the Incineroar. But just a really nice hyper offensive team with some defensive pieces, which I do think is actually very important. And this team, I'm not gonna lie, was very, very hard. We ended up going to 3 games where I did manage to squeak it out. I'm not gonna lie, having Sunny Day against teams like this is very important, right? Because if I ever win the Weather War, it made it incredibly hard for him. Especially too because his Urshi, I do believe was not like max physical attack. I want to say it was probably like 156 adamant or something like that. And there was a lot of KOs that just missed. And I believe there was also like one play in particular I managed to basically get him to click Surging Strikes into my Tornadoes in the rain, in the sun. And it did like 0 damage, which was like, yeah, really good. But this was just like a super scary set. It did go to 3, and my Tornadoes honestly clutched up in this matchup. I believe Chi-Yu was like also super nice. There was actually one game where I believe he Terra-Fired and 2 Heat Waves plus a Moonblast actually picked this thing up. Just to show you how strong Chi-Yu in Sun is. Like, he also did tell me this was max. This was like max Spadef plus Assault Vest. And yeah, Chi-Yu, it ran through it, dude. It was actually insane. It was a really good set. It was a great way to start the day. It was definitely not the kind of opponent I wanted to see round 1. Normally with these events, I'm a super slow starter. I'm the guy who goes 2-2 into winning 4 straight every time. So for me, picking up an early win against a very strong player was honestly unbelievable. I was really happy with it. Both of us played incredibly well. But yeah, we managed to like squeak that one out, right? Then, we go over to round 2 here, going up against Christopher. Now, seeing this team in round 2 was not what I wanted to see. I'm not gonna lie. These Gadget Fire plus like priority teams are probably my worst matchups. I'm not gonna lie. Basically, clicking Howl into things like Sucker Punch, Extreme Speed, and another Sucker Punch is incredibly scary. Not to mention, my team can tend to struggle sometimes to remove the Ogre Pawn Water. One of the best things really about this matchup for me, though, in particular, was I did I don't know if it was the day or 2 days before the event, I essentially found a line that gave me a shot against these teams. And it was actually just using the King Gambit to my advantage. Because a lot of the time, what will happen is they'll click something like the Ice Spinner or the Icicle Crash as you follow me with your, like, my own Ogre Pawn. And they'll do, like, a little over half. And then they'll predict me not, like, going for the redirection the next turn. And they'll try Sacred Sword me. And my guy, like, my Ogre Pawn in particular was, it handily lived a Ice Spinner into a Sacred Sword. So there was a lot of situations where, like, I would just go, like, Terra Dark Wicked Blow into the Urshifu's, the Qianpao's friend. And then the Qianpao would fail to 2-shot my Ogre Pawn Water, which means my, basically my Urshi Dark was able to pick up, like, 3 KOs. And that's essentially how I had to play this matchup. It was still incredibly scary. And, like, even into the King Gambit as well. I think Off memory, game one, I won it pretty handily. I just ran the basic strat of just like essentially just redirection plus like punching a hole through his team. Game two, he ended up having like a really cool play where I think he had Gambit in the back. And like after my Ogre died, I got my, I obviously ended up getting my Flutter Mane in next to my Urshi Dark, and he made a sick call and just like swapped out into the King Gambit, which he didn't bring game one. Like resisted the Wicked Blow, got the +2 off the Icy Wind, and then proceeded to sweep me. And then game three, I knew it was kind of coming, and I predicted the switch. Basically picked up the Gambit on the switch, which was like super clutch, and ended up going on to win the game. Yeah, kind of securing us, a 2-0 to start the day, which I felt super good about because, as I said, I think at Brisbane and OCIC, I 2-0'd to start, or I either 2-0'd or 1-1'd, and then ended up being 2-2. So being 2-0 to start it off did feel really, really good. Especially too, because as I said, previous history, no matter how well I played, I was always a slow starter. I'd always lose games early in the event where I'm like, damn, Scott, like that was a win that I should have got, right? Then we go on to round three, right? So going into this round here as well against Will Tom, this was a homie of my guy Luke's, and this team was really scary because I essentially used this team about 2 weeks before the event, right? So I believe this was a team that was running around on ladder. As I said before, my team in particular, or at least the core of, Chiyu, Flutter, Ogre, and Tornadus, really struggled into a lot of the priority spam, right? Because you've got these mons that are all super squishy, and really don't want to just get E-speeded, sucker punched, whatever, right? And because of that, one of the best ways, I guess, for these Chiyu teams to kind of really break through that is using Iron Crown plus Indeedee, because all of a sudden it's like, hey, we've got this Indeedee that says like, hey, you can't use your priority spam. And then two, you go something like, Timid Fluttermane, for example, with the choice specs, and then you're like, hey, you have to ice spin me if you want to get rid of my terrain. And then I'm just gonna like follow me, go for the Gleam and essentially just remove Qianpao turn one, which is definitely one of the scariest bonds for teams like this to deal with, because Crash can one-shot this, Crash can one-shot this, Sacred Sword can one-shot this, and Ogre Pawn, while sure you can Terror, you never really want to Terror this mon because its job is kind of just to redirect and die into a lot of those teams. And because of that, again, priority spam is like a massive threat, and I think side spam was just a really, really cool way to basically adapt to it. But fortunately for me, one of the best things about running this mirror is side spam does not want to deal with Chiyu. And thankfully, my Chiyu was just super good in this matchup. I did kind of speak about it when I went through the team review. I was a timid max speed fish, and I don't think that's the right play. But in matchups like this, it was super clutch because a lot of the time these guys are modest or they're bulky. And I'm just sitting there with my Chiyu outspeeding everything, spamming Snarl into 5 special attackers, and an Ogre Pawn that, like, if it doesn't Terror, kind of gets 2-shot. And an Ogre Pawn also doesn't like to play in Sun. And my opponent, like, yeah, sure, he's got Rain, but, like, Rain just feels bad, especially because I believe we got into a situation where I basically just ended up spamming Bleak Winds into him. And, like, I didn't care. It was like, okay, I'm just gonna, like, Snarl Bleak Wind. And, like, you can try cycle around it. You're gonna do no damage. I'm gonna drop your speeds. And, yeah, this was honestly, like, one of the sets where I think in particular the like, Bleak Wind Storms off my own Tornadus was just, like, super, super clutch. But yeah, I was very thankful to get through Will, just because, again, like, this matchup can be scary, especially when he's got the specs Flutter and I don't. But the speed boost to Flutter in the mirror, obviously, it's fantastic. It put in so much work, man. It was insane. But then we have Matthew. Now, it's actually really sad I don't have Matthew's full team here. He was my only opponent that actually didn't make top 128. Therefore, his team was not actually in the Top Cut Explorer, but I essentially tried to pull what I remembered. I know he definitely had a Zapdos, and he definitely had an Ogre Water. Definitely had a Spec Sylveon, and a Garchomp. I believe there might have been a Tyranitar on this team as well, but I don't remember, and because of that, I don't want to put it there. Another thing with Matthew as well is, I'm sure anyone who's, basically seen any information about Melbourne or any of the news, Daniel Walker basically got sniped by his Cresselia. The story is, Daniel was meant to have Terra Fairy. Turns out he had Terra Poison. His opponent, called over a judge. The judge, blah, blah, blah. Things were said. Daniel tried to trade his Cresselia to a friend to basically, get the right Terra on it. Daniel randomly trades it to someone, gets a Mimikyu in return. And Matthew Hick was the guy who played him. So I played Matthew at the 3-0 table. I do feel kind of bad because if you do have a look at this, Matthew ends up going 3-4 drop. So he was 3-0 going into me and then lost 4 consecutive games before he dropped, which definitely was sad. I didn't realize it was actually him that did drop, at the time when I was like looking at my, basically looking at my my wins and my losses. But yeah, Matthew did unfortunately go on to essentially drop, but it was a super cool team. Choice Spec Sylveon, I believe he was actually running like Hurricane as well here, which I mean, you have to, this thing doesn't get air slash. But he was like running Hurricane, and he called like a really sick play where he was like 1 HP and he called me going for the sucker. And he just straight up roosted in my face. And it was like really sad because I'm sitting there like, damn, I kind of wasted a turn and it didn't feel great. But yeah, this was a tight 3 games. Game 1, I think I won pretty handily. Game 2, he outplayed me with the roost and whatnot. And then in game 3, I realized like, hey, Sylveon's his like really only good way through me. And how do we build Sylveon, boys? It's the same way you beat 90% of the meta with a team like mine. You cook it in Sun with Chiyu. Thankfully, yeah, Chiyu was just able to like sweep through game 3. Made it pretty easy, and yeah, it was good. Your boy started the event 4-0. I was feeling fantastic. And then we went up against Trent Sayer. For anyone who doesn't know who this is the guy who came second at Melbourne. Got him as my round 5 matchup. And I'm not gonna lie, this was really rough, right? So this match basically came right after lunch. I was feeling good. I just had lunch. I'm 4-0. I'm feeling great. I'm like, this is my event. I haven't played a single Blood Moon Trick Room yet. I haven't played a single Wolf team yet. They were the 2 things I was like super prepped for. And I'm like, I've got this, yeah. And then I run into this. And I'm not gonna lie, this was the most demoralizing loss I've had probably since Joe eliminated me at OCIC. When he beat me, I just remember feeling like, holy shit, not only did I play bad, I genuinely don't see an out for me with my team. I'm like, I had one way to win it. I tried it game 2, and honestly, it might have worked, but I don't know. He misclicked basically the turn 1 for game 2, and we'll go through that in a second. But yeah, I essentially faced this. Both games, he went Indeedee Gallade lead with Torkoal hat in the back, and I couldn't do anything. He beat me bad. The Gallade was really good into basically everything I tried to bring, to beat these guys here, right? Like, how do I beat these mons? It's my Focus Sash Urshi. It's, my Chiyu with the Dark typing. And Gallade kind of just runs straight through him. I can't bop it with the Overheat because of the Terra Fire. This guy here also has Terra Water as well, which helps him eat the Overheats as well, which was really my way of breaking these Trick Room teams, right? It was just Chiyu one-shots with an Overheat, and then they don't get up their Trick Room. And unfortunately, I couldn't do it. The other, obviously, method of getting through it as well is, Heat Wave plus Sunny Day. Glade's got Wide Guard. But basically, the turn 1 play he made on game 2, and he even said it himself, which was a misclick, was he actually, he led Indeedee Gallade and just double Trick Roomed. He said he meant to follow me Trick Room, but he just double Trick Roomed, and the next turn he just followed me Trick Roomed. And for me, the reason that was an issue was because I knew he wanted to Trick Room, but what I wanted to do was make sure he didn't get any free switch-ins into his sweepers, right? The idea was stall Trick Room as long as I could, and essentially just keep cycling, don't let anything come in for free. Essentially what happened, I think turn 1, I cycled I swapped Fluttermane into Raging Bolt as I clicked Snarl, and then the game plan was then to, then swap in Fluttermane on the Chiyu slot, and then click Snarl again. And essentially what ended up happening was I did do really good to like stall out the Trick Room, but because he basically doubled the Trick Room, I ended up essentially killing one of the mons with Snarl a turn early because the Trick Room was a turn delayed. And my Chiyu ended up coming in safely on the last turn of Trick Room into the, I believe it was the Torkoal or the hat, I forget exactly which one. And basically that just ended the game because it got to a point where I was like, Chiyu was meant to come in the turn after it ends. Like, you just double attack on the last turn of Trick Room or whatever, sack something, and then get into Chiyu for free and win the game. I couldn't do that because he double Trick Room turn 1, and he even said to me, like, it was just a misclick. He thought he followed me, and the follow me, I guess, won him that game. But in saying that, I think I did play game 2 really well, but the matchup was just super hard, especially with my sets. One of the biggest things I kind of learned about teams like this is I really wish I changed my spreads, right? I kind of touched on it in the team video, but my Chiyu was way too fast with no bulk, and the speed never came into play. Like, there was never a situation where modest max speed was worse than timid max speed. Like, I was never like, oh my god, thank god I was max speed, because every goddamn Ogre Water I faced was faster than me. Like, obviously, all the Urshis I played were always Focus Sash or Mystic Water. None of them were Sash. So, like, I was in this weird spot where I was like, damn, I don't think, going modest, 152 or whatever, was a bad play. And that extra bit of bulk against teams like this would have gone a long way. And the same with my Raging Bolt. This was the only set for day 1 I brought my Raging Bolt to. And it was one of those things where I'm just sitting there and I'm like, why do I have like 140 EVs in speed instead of bulk? Because I'm pretty sure there was like one situation where like I died to a dazzling gleam and I'm like, that surely was a roll. And if I just had like a few more spadef, a few more HP, it might have lived, which in turn gets another move off, which means maybe I just win, you know, maybe I kill something I didn't otherwise, and the next thing I win the game, right? So yeah, this one for me was like super demoralizing. I remember just losing it thinking, damn, that was a rough one. You know, it was a tough matchup, but, you know, I was like, all right, we're still 4-1. It's a good day. You know, I'm still pretty confident. It was just a tough matchup. And then I ran into Shane in his Pachirisu. And the funny thing for me was he sits down at the table and he just goes to me, I don't know how I'm here. He starts acting like he's like a bad player. And I'm like, oh, dude, okay. This guy's playing Pachirisu. I still feel really good. I look at his team. I'm like, this team, it's not that scary, right? Specs Flutter, sure, it's annoying. Pachi's a meme. My team doesn't care about Pachi. Everything outspeeds it. You know, I put on so much offensive pressure. It doesn't matter. I've got enough spread moves. You know, the Entei is kind of annoying. And yeah, it was exactly that. I think off memory, like I think I won game 1, something like that. And I was like feeling good. And then I lost game 2 to like Entei, and then I just lost game 3 to Entei, and I'm sitting there like, holy shit, I was 4-0, I'm 4-2. I just lost to a Pachirisu player. And I realized my team doesn't deal with Entei that well. I was kind of sitting there and thinking, wow, all these guys running similar teams to me have Glamora. Glamora resists the fire move, and it threatens the one shot with Meteor Beam. And I was like, I'm sitting there kicking myself like, goddamn, Raging Bolt wasn't the play. The one set it came to, it did nothing. And you know, I've now just lost another game where I'm like, shit, kind of wish I had Glamora. Honestly, this one was, I think, just poorly played by me. This was me like feeling shit after my loss, seeing that my opponent had Pachirisu and that they were also like, I shouldn't be here. And then I was like, all right, he thinks he's bad. I'm good. I'm arrogant. I'm just playing shit. That's essentially what it was. I think I played really bad. Like, not trying to take away from my opponent. I think they played the set incredibly well. But I also think on top of them playing really well, I definitely had the opportunity to win this. And I screwed it. Like, I knew my calcs. Like, there were turns where I just stayed in on the Ogre Pawn and it just one-shot me. And I was like, but I just cycled my own Ogre Pawn in. Like, I Terra Ghost in front of it. It kills me with a Terra Water Ivy Cudgel. I'm like, I knew it was going to happen. Like, I know my Chi doesn't live a Terra Water Ogre Pawn. Even if they're like 4 attack, I get one shot. And yeah, because of that, I'm just like, yeah, that was misplay. Kind of through it. You know, I'm feeling shit now. You know, I'm 4-2. And then I see another Entei. And the worst part about this one is, as you can see here, the Chen Power Fly 4. But I'm sitting here like, god damn it. Like, my mons are meant to live Sash Chen Power. Life Orb Chen Power just one-shots me. Sucker Punch just one-shots me. Like, things like Rillaboom just put so much pressure on my Flutter main, it doesn't get to play, right? We touched on Entei before. This is Terra Normal Banded Entei. You know, this is like Lefty's Carmine Raging Bolt, and I think it Carmined on me a couple times, and honestly, it's just a bad matchup. Like, this is another one of those matchups where I'm sitting there thinking, damn, where the hell is my Glamora? Like, where is my Glamora right now? Getting up the spike so that I can, you know, threaten this guy, get some chip on him when he starts cycling, you know, threaten one-shots on these two, even really these three. It was just bad. And then I'm just like, I'm sitting there, I'm feeling shit. I'm like, I'm 4-3. My day 2 hopes are done. Like, my goal coming into this event was day 2, right? I really wanted top 16. Obviously, I really wanted to win the whole thing. But I missed day 2 at Brisbane, and I was like, I really want day 2 at this event, right? Really want day 2. I just run into another really, really hard matchup. And it was like, I'm sitting here like, damn. It sucks. Like, I'm now 4-3. I was 4-0. I'm 4-3. This feels really bad. And then I kind of just, you know, I was sitting there. I'm like, all right, shit, right? So we gotta, like, we really gotta pull up at this point, right? There's still a chance, you know, at least go 6-3, get some CP. That was kind of my goal. 6-3, get some CP. And I run into Tasman here. And Tasman, as you can see, is running a Sun team. Now, the one really good thing my team has into Sun is I'm just faster Sun anyway, right? We even joked at the start of it. I was like, hey, gentleman's agreement, no Sun. Haha. Game 1, he didn't bring Sun. I won it pretty damn quickly. My Chiyu just ran through the team. Game 2, he brought Sun. I think I ended up losing game 2 to a really good Terra from his Latias off memory. But then game 3, I kind of just realized my win condition, and I managed to just like run through it. It was like really good. The thing too, like, I guess actually this is the one place where Chiyu's speed did actually come into play. A lot of Lilligans are adamant. Lilligan, I'll just quickly put it on the screen here so we can see it. Adamant Lilligan only hits 157. Modest Chiyu hits 152. Timid hits 167, right? So this is like, I guess, one of the situations where I was like, hey, I'm actually just faster than this. That's fantastic. Like, it's really good that I'm faster than this. Yeah, it was like, it basically just got to a point where I just realized, like, hey, his team just, it folds to Snarl. And also he sets up the Sun for my Raging Bolt to sweep him. Because it got to a point where it's like, oh, like Walking Wake, if you take any chip from like a Gleam, I just Thunderclap you. Same with the Flutter Mane. It's like, hey, if you get Gleamed or Snarled, you're in Thunderclap range. You know, Latios here, it doesn't want to eat anything from Chiyu, right? If it has to Terra Poison, it doesn't want to eat a Thunderclap. If it doesn't Terra Poison, it just eats a Snarl and does no damage and takes a lot of damage. And like the other thing too is this team also didn't really like playing against my my Speed Booster Flutter Mane's Icy Wind plus Dark Urshi. Honestly, this just ended up being a super favorable matchup for me. It was really cool. Like, I love seeing like Wake and Bolt in Sun. But yeah, thankfully for me, Chiyu just really cooked this matchup. It was just like another one of those sets where like my Tornadus was like super good with its Bleak Winds. Chiyu with its Snarls was fantastic. My Flutter Mane and my Urshi Dark as well were really good. I did actually bring Raging Bolt to one game. I actually think it was game 3 was the one it came to, which was the only game it came to outside of that Trick Room set against Trent. But, you know, we ended up pulling it out. I was like, all right, we're now 5-3. It's kind of respectable. Let's just go 6-3, right? And we went into Jaden Chapman here running our Charlotte Rain, essentially. And this team, I'm not going to lie, the second I saw it, I was like, thank freaking God. I have a Drizzle team versus Manual Sun. I know exactly how these matches go. It's fantastic for me. I love it, right? Essentially, like, all I did was, I'm pretty sure I just led, I don't remember exactly if it was, I think it was just Ogerpawn plus Tornadus both games with Chiyu Flutter Mane in the back. Game 1, I won it like pretty convincingly. I think he like tried to play around with his Clef, but it's like, you can't redirect with a Clef when I've got like Icy Wind, Dazzling Gleam, Heat Wave, Bleak Wind Storm. Kind of just runs through, and the team's really bad if they lose their Rain. And Pelipper, like when it starts just like spamming Wide Guard, it feels really bad because a lot of the time I wouldn't click my moves. Like I was like, yeah, I have to lock into Bleak Wind Storm, but I've just set up the Sun and I'm just like Horn Leeching down that left slot. And the second Archaludon comes in, if we're in Sun, Chiyu just one-shots it, like Overheat one-shots it, doesn't care. If you get like Flutter Mane and Chiyu on the board together, you just like go Moonblast plus Heat Wave, just one-shots it, it doesn't care. And like it's Terra Fairy, so it's like my team didn't care. It was the only thing Terra Fairy was good for would have been like obviously my Dark Urshi. But again, if you're going Terra Fairy, you're probably losing the game anyway because like then all of a sudden I'm just like sweeping through everything. But yeah, like off memory, game 1 was like easy. I was like, all right, sick, we got it. Game 2, he scared the absolute crap out of me because I led the exact same, but he led Baskia Legion plus Pelipper. I'm like, oh, this is free, right? We just go like Sunny Day Horn Leech. And then he went Terra Water Aqua Jet into my Tornadus. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm about to lose my Tornadus. Thankfully, Tornadus lived on like 50 health. But yeah, because I went Sunny Day, I think I ended up just like one-shotting the Baskia Legion, getting like all my health back. Oh, sorry. I one-shot it, being full HP. And then I think my opponent then just like clicked a, maybe it was like a Weather Ball into my Ogre Pawn. And then I was like, all right, well, the game's kind of done now because you kind of have to switch. And I think he like brought in his Urshi and then cycled out his Pelipper. And I just Horn Leeched it all back as he like, I think he's Surging Strike my Tornadus, and I was like, okay, Horn Leech plus Rocky Helmet just kills. And then it was basically game over because Pelipper comes back in, I set the Sun, and then I just targeted down the Pelipper, got Archaludon by itself, and we won the game. I'm like, all right, we finished 6-3. It's great. Probably not making it on Resistance. And then like I pulled this up, and then I'm like, all right, my round 1 actually went 5-4, not bad. Like my round 2 went 6-3, that's good. My round 3, 5-4, that's good. You know, Matt dropped, but that's whatever. Trent at the time was 8-1. Funny enough, he beat Sam Pendelis, who got the up pair in round 9. Sam, like, obviously one of the best players in Australia. So that was, like, huge. And then, obviously, you see a 6-5, 5-4, 5-4, 5-4. I'm like, my resistance actually isn't too bad. And Trent was really carrying me at 8-1. And, yeah, because of that, I snuck into day 2. I got 32nd. I made it by, I think it was, like, 0.13% or something like that, which was absolutely nutty. But, like, I was just sitting there thinking, like, hey, I'm day 2. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter what my record is day 2 now. Like, I'm just going to go out there. I'm just going to win all my games. I'm going to, like, literally, my mentality was, let's just go 5-0 this, and we're set. Like, you look at my day 1 here, right? Let's look at my day 1 here. look at my teams that I play against, right? Archaludon Rain, we got the Sun here, priority spam, kind of HO priority spam, Trick Room. This was like kind of balancey, HO, priority spam, HO. I'm like, okay, I've not seen a single Blood Moon Ursaluna. I haven't seen a single Wolf team. I've only played against one like hard Trick Room team and it beat me. But it's fine, yeah? And then just have a quick look at my first 4 day 2s here. Right, we got Blood Moon, we got Blood Moon, we got Blood Moon, and we have Giraffe Torkoal like Bolt Sun in Trick Room. Yeah, it wasn't great. I'm not gonna lie, it was not fun, right? So playing against William here, sadly for me, William ended up being the player who basically stole the last top 16 spot with a 9-5 record, which is the same as me. Pretty salty about it because I did actually go on to win this. But this set was honestly insanely close. Game 1 came down to me getting like a sick read. Essentially, the situation was I think I had Fluttermane and Urshi on the board on the last turn of Trick Room. He had Giraffe and Blood Moon, and my Urshi was already -1. But his Blood Moon was like 10% HP, but he was Silk Scarf, not Life Orb, so he wasn't going to kill himself. And I still had something in the back. I forget what it was. And I think I just protected my Fluttermane as well. So it was like, I've just protected both my Mons. I'm not in a position where I can like, KO the Blood Moon on the board, right? It's Giraffe and Blood Moon. And both my Mons just dropped the Hyper Voice. But I'm sitting there thinking, well, he doesn't know what I have in the back, right? It was my Chi-Yu, by the way, surprise. And basically, I made the read that he was going to make the call that, hey, he's going to pick up a KO, right? He's going to kill both my Mons. And my Chi-Yu is going to come in, and he needs to fake out my Chi-Yu. Because if he doesn't fake out my Chi-Yu wins the game, right? And because that's the call I make, I end up saying, hey, I'm just going to Sucker Punch the Blood Moon Ursaluna. I'm dead anyway, right? It's going to move first. I don't want to risk the double protect. I'm just going to Sucker Punch it. And he cycled in the Incin, and I just sat there. I remember just leaning back in my chair and just like doing this, like, thank fucking God. He cycles in the Incin, and I snipe the Blood Moon, and it puts me in a position where all of a sudden, the Giraffe comes back in. By the way, I was like 10% health, and my Fluttermane was still alive, which meant he couldn't get Trick Room up, and I was just in a position where I'm like, thank fucking God, right? He can fake out my, he can fake out Urshi and get the kill if he wants, which he did, but I just Moonblasted straight into the Giraffe and picked it up. And then it was like Chi-Yu and Fluttermane facing it down. I just like went Moonblast Dark Pulse. I did like 70% or something like that. And then he just like Flare Blitzes to kill my Fluttermane. And I'm like, with that chip, it's not even close. The next Dark Pulse picks up. We win the game. It was like super sick. Something I probably should mention as well, actually. Turn 1, my opponent did lead Incin plus, I believe he led Incin and... I'm pretty sure he led Incin and his Fluttermane. God, I don't know why that was so hard to get out. He basically led that all 3 games off memory. And that's how we learned that my Fluttermane my Chi-Yu could one-shot his Fluttermane. Because basically, I believe he went like Flare Blitz and whatever he clicked on Fluttermane. And I just Icy Wind overheated and just like one-shot the Fluttermane turn 1. So that was like, I mentioned that because it's important to keep in mind here going into game 3. Game 2, he just like Trick Rooms me. I think off memory, I missed, it was like the exact same lead, and I just missed my overheat. And the fact that I missed my overheat was just like, oh, that's game done. Because like all of a sudden, I miss my overheat, my Fluttermane just eats a Flare Blitz, game's essentially over. And then we go into game 3, where I end up just like, I managed to stall out the Trick Room, and it was like, it was really weird because he didn't go Blood Moon Trick Room game 3. He went Urshifu as his last. So he like led Flutter Incin, then he had Giraffe in the back plus the Urshi Dark, which to me was like crazy. I'm like, holy fuck, like why's he got Urshi Dark here? And we ended up getting into a situation which was like super weird too, because he won 3 speed ties, right, under Trick Room in the Urshi versus Urshi mirror. But the funny thing was I ended up like making just like a sick play that essentially like saves it, right? So like, think about this. I think this is the last turn of Trick Room, right? I've just sent in my Chi-Yu, and my Chi-Yu's at like 70 HP, right? So I'm a little over half, but I just eaten a Spec Shadow Ball, and I got a special defense drop, right? And so it's like my Urshi with like max, like with Focus Sash intact, I think. No, sorry, it wasn't intact. My Sash was not intact. But neither was his, and we had my Chi-Yu and his Flutter Mane on the board, and I had my Flutter Mane in the back. And basically what happened is I say, hey, my Chi-Yu wins the 1v1 against his thingy, his Flutter Mane. I need to make the call that Urshi's attacking Chi-Yu because he knows my Chi-Yu will just kill his Flutter Mane here. And that's what I did. I swapped in my Urshi. He Wicked Blow. Sorry, I swapped my Urshi. I swapped in my Flutter Mane. He Wicked Blow KOs it. Which again, super frustrating because I knew my Flutter Mane was faster than his, and this was the last turn of Trick Room. So if my Wicked Blow had gone before his Wicked Blow, I just kill his Urshi as he Shadow Balls my Urshi. Then it's Flutterfish versus Flutter, and it's like easy. Wins 3 consecutive speed ties. It pissed me off. It's whatever. We're under Trick Room, so I guess technically I won the speed ties, but yeah. And then we get into a board state where it's literally his Flutter Mane is full HP. My Chi-Yu is like 70 when it's like 132 or something like that. I'm like, I know I can live one. I just need to hit the overheat. I missed the overheat in game 2. He clicks the Shadow Ball. Once again, he gets a special defense drop, and I just sat there and prayed. The overheat goes off. I hit it, and I win my first game of day 2. I'm like, this is sick. Thank God. Honestly, it was the most stressful game of the day. After that game, I was literally shaking. I'm like, holy shit. Like, I never shake like that after a game. For me, I'm just like, this is absolutely insane, right? Absolutely insane. And then we just go straight into round 11, right? It was a long game 3. We go into round 11. I see Phil's team here. No offense to Phil at all. Great player, clearly made it here. I look at this team, I'm like, this is free. I go on to lose his set, spoiler alert. But I look at this team, I say this is free. Game 1, I get his lead right. We basically trade Giraffe for Chi-Yu. For me, absolutely fine. I don't care. You don't have your Trick Room up. You've got Torkoal in the back, and I think he had like Urshi Dark. I just had a speed booster Flutter Mane on the board, dropped all his speed, swept through him. Piece of piss. Game 2, adjusts his game plan. He ends up bringing fast mode in the back. And basically he takes my Ogre, we trade turn 1, I think. So no, we didn't trade because I predicted he would follow me again. I predicted he'd follow me instead of attacking, and I wasn't sure about the speed stats. He just straight up Terra Water bops my my Chi-Yu. It sucked. I should have Icy Winded and I would have killed the Giraffe. But I was like, it's fine, whatever. You know, I got the Moonblast out. You know, I did like 40% to the Giraffe. And then he just hyper voices me. I was like, oh, that's like weird. He just hyper voiced a ghost type. Actually, no, maybe he gleamed. Maybe he gleamed. Oh, no, I think it was, I don't know, maybe it was Helping Hand. All I know is he didn't Trick Room. I was like, oh, that's like kind of weird. He didn't Trick Room there, but like, I guess I get nothing out of it, besides like a little chip. And then he like sends in his great task. I'm like, oh shit, he's gone fast mode. Okay, like he's not actually playing Trick Room. Because of that, you know, one little misplay, he ends up going on to win it. I was like, all right, you know, that kind of sucked because he was able to like just follow me at that point and then just start like firing off attacks eventually with great task. I was like, all right, shit, you know, bad turn 1 play. You know, he brings the fast mode, not the Trick Room mode. I wasn't ready for it. Game 3, I adapt. I forget the exact sequence of plays on turn 1. No, sorry, that's a lie. I remember the exact sequence of plays. I Icy Winded this time. He Helping Handed. I believe he Helping Handed. I just one-shot the Giraffe with Overheat as he Terra Ivy Cudgeled my Chi-Yu. But I did get the Icy Wind off onto the Ogre Pawn, right? So I'm like, all right, sweet. That is completely fine. Sorry, he didn't Terra. I lied. He didn't Terra. I just remembered. He saved his Terra game 3. So he Helping Hand Ivy Cudgeled, I think. I overheated Giraffe. I killed Giraffe. He KOs me, but he took like 20-30% chip on the Ogre Pawn Water. He sends in his great task. I send in my Urshi through Dark, right? I'm like, this is good because I know the Ogre Pawn is -1 speed right now. And I also know that I one-shot this always with Dark Wicked Blow, right? I click Terra. He clicks Terra. He clicks Follow Me. I click Icy Wind. The game DCs before the Icy Wind goes off. The reason this is such a pain in the ass is because I knew at this point, right? There is nothing on his team that beats my Giraffe anymore in this board state, especially because his Great Tusk was not going to move. And I had my Bolt in the back. So think about this, right? So he's lost his Giraffe, right? He's lost his Ogre Pawn. His Great Tusk, 95% of the time is -1 speed and it's Terra grounded, which means it does not live a Wicked Blow at this point of the game. And his final mon was either his own Raging Bolt, his Torkoal, or his, you know, his Urshifu with Power Band, right? So he's in a situation where essentially nothing on his team can win him this game, right? I'm a very, very fast Raging Bolt, right? probably faster. You know, like maybe there's a world where like he technically could win it. But he essentially said to me when it happened, he's like, hey, I think you win that game. And I'm sitting here like, yeah, I think I win the game too. Because he also clicked Headlong Rush. So he was Terra Ground, Choice Scarf, Headlong Rush into my Flutter Mane. That's what he told me. He Headlong Rushed the Flutter Mane. I Terra Dark Wicked Blow the Ogre Pawn. And as long as the Icy Wind connected, I still had my Focus Sash intact. I was then going to have speed control. And I was just in a position where my opponent essentially couldn't play the game, right? I was going to kill the Great Task, and we called the Judge over. We DC'd. Judge is like, hey, you got to go to sudden death. And it sucked too, because like my opponent even said to me, he's like, you were going to win the game. And I'm sitting there like, shit, can I get a forfeit win? Like, I feel bad because like I never want my opponent just to be like, oh no, like take the win. Unless it's like clearly obvious. Say it was like 4-on-1 and then it's like, okay, the game's 100% done. Then yeah, like give me the win. But we're in a situation where 95% of the time I probably win. But who knows? Maybe this is the 5% of the time I don't win. Because of that, we play the best of 3. Oh, sorry, the sudden death. And like it pains me because I knew what I had to lead. I had to lead Flutterfish, and I had to try get a KO turn 1. But I also had to like, obviously, if he leads his Ogre Pawn here, I know Terra Water Ivy Cudgel is going to kill me. And it was one of those things where it got down to like the last second, and I just locked in the double. I just went Terra Ghost, Heat Wave, Icy Wind, which pains me because I knew I couldn't live the Terra Water Ivy Cudgel, and I had a Raging Bolt in the back to switch into the Ogre Pawn. But I just remember sitting there thinking, I might just KO whatever's next to it. And he did lead his Great Task with Choice Scarf. And then he swaps that into the Raging Bolt. And I'm like, fuck. I'm not KOing either Mon. I Icy Wind Heat Waved. Somehow I did like 60-70% to the draft. No idea how it happened. And I remember just sitting there and I'm like, all right, this is done. Like I've thrown the game. This was like the freest ever switch into my own Raging Bolt you've ever seen. Especially too if I save my Terra and I just go Terra Fairy the next turn in front of his Raging Bolt. And I can just drop a Draco. And I literally just said to my opponent, my only shot here now is if I hit the Heat Wave burn. My Chiyu fucking burnt the Heat Wave, boys. But it burnt the Raging Bolt. Which was so painful too, because like one, I think if I just Moonblasted the Great Tusk slot, I won the game. Although actually, because the issue if I do that is then I don't have speed control. But then like, I don't know, it's weird. It's Sudden Death sucks. Sudden Death is so stupid. We should not have it. And like we DC'd early, so why not just let us play the game again? But yeah, that's basically where my top 8 dreams ended because of a sudden death in a matchup where like 95% of the time I win it. So yeah, that was like super, super disappointing for me. And I remember just sitting there thinking, fuck it. 10-4, let's just steal the last slot. Like let's 1-10-4 makes it. Let's be the 10-4. And we go up against Daniel here. Now I do feel bad for Daniel. This was without a doubt my easiest like round 2. My easiest day 2 matchup without a doubt. Game 1, it was just the classic. I think he led like Hands Giraffe. I just one-shot his Giraffe with Overheat. And then I think I forget exactly what he did. I think he might have heavy slammed the Flutter Mane. Like honestly, I think I might have even just straight up Moonblasted the Iron Hands. I forget what I did. Essentially, I just like removed Giraffe turn 1, didn't give him the Trick Room, and then was just like, sick, I'm in a fantastic spot here. And then game 2, I flinched the shit out of him. Actually, was it this one or was it? Am I thinking of the next run? Nah, wait. Maybe I'm thinking of Luke here. No, I am thinking of Luke, sorry. Let's go back a step. I forget exactly how this game went. I remember, I'm pretty sure I just took out the Giraffe turn 1, or at least I forced the Terror. I remember. Game 1. So what happened game 1? I ended up like pulling it out, thankfully. I Dark Pulse Dazzling Gleamed, and the fucking Giraffe lived on like 2 HP, right? And my Gleam did a shit ton to the Iron Hands. As you can see here, it's Clear Amulet, not Assault Vest. I ended up somehow pulling game 1 out of my ass, even though like I failed to stop the Trick Room, which to me was like nutty. And then game 2, I was just like, if Gleam and Dark Pulse against Terrifier left it on like 10 like HP, like Moonblast Dark Pulse probably just kills. I just Moonblast Dark Pulsed. I killed it. I cycled out my fish. He didn't have Trick Room. I got the fish back in and just Heat Wave won me the game. It was honestly pretty good. I was like super happy with it. I'm like, thank God, you know, Chiyu's put me on the back. It was like my second Blood Moon in 3 rounds, like essentially 3 consecutive Trick Rooms because Phil did run a Trick Room mode against me. I was feeling great. But then we played Luke here, sorry. And this one was different. Both games he led Incineroar Fluttermane. Game 1, I Icy Wind overheated to pick it up. Got the KO. Fantastic. It felt great. Ended up winning the game, like, pretty easily. This was probably my easiest set of the day. Sorry, not the last one before it. Game 2, my opponent adjusts and goes the Ogerpon route. He leads with Ogerpon and Fluttermane. And I just looked at it and was like, my opponent's always Terra Watering here. I could go the KO with the Overheat here, but I don't want to, like, Overheat and then just have, like, a Specs Moonblast just, like, pick up. And I think my opponent, off memory, he went for the KO with the Ogerpon, and I think he Dazzling Gleamed with the Fluttermane, as I Icy Wind Dark Pulsed, and I flinched the Dark Pulse, and he instantly quit the game. He basically just said to me, the second I flinched it, he no longer had a wind gun. And granted, I think he was right, because we're at a point where I had speed control, he didn't, and Moonblast would have KO'd the Ogerpon, and because of the chip from Icy Wind, I think Dark Pulse probably would have just KO'd Fluttermane, and my opponent was essentially in a situation where he had a little bit of chip on my board, but he wasn't going to be able to do anything with it. Like, I was pretty confident too after the flinch. I'm like, this is done. My opponent has no outs anymore. I still had my Terra Ghost if Incin came in, and nothing on his team was just going to be able to outspeed my Fish and my Fluttermane, and essentially it was done. He hadn't chipped me enough to a point where, like, Urshi could win the game either, or with, like, a, you know, Terra Dark Sucker, because I just had Terra Fairy available still. And Luke just straight DCs. I'm like, all right, perfect. We're 3-1. It's day 2. One more win for top 16. Top 16 was important as well because top 16 gets money. And I'm like, if I just win this next game, that's Perth paid for. I run into not only one of the worst counters for my team, or worst matchups for my team in the priority spam, but a good friend in Toby. Toby's another Melbourne player. We've recently played a team tournament together. We're on the same team. Really good guy. He was not the guy I wanted to see in the last round, especially with another one of these Gouging Fire teams. Now look, round 1, I basically executed my plan, right? So, I said it before, my plan into these teams is use the Chen Pao to my advantage. I just say, hey, Chen Pao, you can sit there. I'm going to use my Dark Urshi to kill your friends. And that's like what happened, right? It basically was just like Dark Urshi starts like one-shotting everything on his team. We eventually win the game. Sick. Absolutely love it. Game 2, he adjusts. He goes Rillaboom, Chen Pao on his lead. I double protect. I Terra Dark, take the Rillaboom. I trade my Ogerpon for it. And then I get into a position. Sorry, that's a lie, actually. I didn't trade, I think, because I think he Sacred Sworded. I think he Sacred Sword Grassy Glided. I lived on like 10 HP or whatever it was. And then next turn basically comes in. I think he might have gone for a priority move. And I think he went like Thunderclap plus whatever it was. I think it was like Terra Electric Thunderclap, some shit like that. And I just like, I sacrifice my Ogerpon. I get the Wicked Blow. I do like 70% to the Raging Bolt. I get my Fluttermane in for free. And I'm feeling good. I'm like, I'm up a game. I've essentially just traded one Mon for like 1.5 Mons, especially too because his Raging Bolt was like the biggest threat to my team. And then I made like the biggest mistake of the game, and it really cost me the set. And I'm not gonna lie, this was like an incredibly hard set anyway. And Toby did play it really well. But off memory, I think I protected my Fluttermane, thinking to myself, hey, he's just gonna Thunderclap, Sucker Punch, kill me right here. I protect my Fluttermane as he Sucker Punch Thunderclap to my fucking Urshifu. And I remember just sitting there thinking, I'm an idiot because 1, like, Dazzling Gleam was just free. And then 2, he was probably in Sucker Punch range on the Raging Bolt. And I'm almost certain with Terra Dark, like, Sucker Punch next to their own Urshifu, it was a KO. Sorry, next to their own Chen Pao. So it's like either that or I just like Wicked Blow Dazzling Gleam. It doesn't matter. Like either way, I kill the bolts here. And then basically he just like, yeah, essentially just takes out my Urshifu through its sash. And then my Chi-Yu comes in and then I'm like, well, fuck, he just gets a kill now. I just Heatwave Dazzling Gleam. Doesn't matter. He just like Sucker Punch Thunderclaps, one-shots my Chi-Yu. I don't get a KO because I think he went Terra Electric and Gleam just wasn't enough anymore. And then I just remember sitting there like, shit, I think I had this one and I threw it. The turn I protected my Fluttermane was just like a Gleam Sucker Punch. I kill the Bolt. I drop the Chi Power to its sash. He brings in one Mon. He's just, at that point, he was just Gleam food, right? Because I think his last Mon was the Entei. And I remember just thinking, fuck. Like, I looked at him and I'm like, this is free. Because, like, then I would have had a full HP Fluttermane. and Gleam was just free because like Gleam will always KO the left slot. I'm immune to Entei clicking the E speeds, and Chiyu can just win the game at that point because it was like Chiyu could just Dark Ball through the Entei. I'm like, shit, I've thrown, whatever, go to game 3. And game 3, I think that's when Toby kind of realized, hey, he doesn't have a good way through my Raging Bolt. He doesn't have a good way through my my Citrus Berry Entei, which by the way was like really annoying. And I think he also realized like, hey, my Chen Power's helping him more than it's helping me, at least on lead. And he adjusted. He led Ogerpawn and Entei. He went to Sacred Fire. We both just redirected turn 1. He went Sacred Fire. I dropped his Ogerpawn to like 10% health, which again, by the way, very few Ogerpawns were easily living my Urshifu. And I realized as well that majority of his team was spec'd to live that Wicked Blow, including his Entei, because turn 2 of game 3, I threw essentially through the game. I was like, you know what? I know my Ogerpawn's the fastest thing on the board. I'm just gonna use Ogerpawn to snipe his Ogerpawn. I just Horn Leeched, killed it, great. Terra Dark, Wicked Blowed. I did like, I think it was like 80-90%. It citrused up, it Sacred Fired my my Urshi, and it burnt my Dark Urshi. And that was basically the game, because it got to a point where he then just brought in his Raging Bolt, he clicked Terra Electric, and nothing on my team got to move for the rest of the game. He one-shot my Flutter Mane and my Chiyu before they could move with Sucker Punch and Thunderclap. And I was like, shit, I almost had a free win in game 2. I just played 2 defensive, I played 2 passive, thinking, hey, like there's no way he doesn't just double my Flutter Mane here with double priority. Yeah, it cost me the game, and it was really sad, because I think it was a really bad matchup, and I did play it really well up until game 3, where I think Toby just kind of realized his way through me. He realized like, hey, Chen Pao isn't the guy winning him the game. Rillaboom essentially did nothing besides like chip down my Ogerpawn. And yeah, Entei and Raging Bolt were too hard for me to deal with, especially with the ones I was bringing. In hindsight, like I was thinking like maybe I should have just brought Tornadus. Like maybe Tornadus was just the guy, because like Helmet plus Terra Steel was good into a lot of what he had. But yeah, that's how I ended up going 9-5, and it was, for me, the day 2 was really sad because I was feeling really good going into Toby. Like I felt like I hadn't lost a game all day. Being that I was 3-1 and my only loss was the what's it called? Sudden Death, that both me and my opponent think I should have won before it went to Sudden Death. But oh look, it is what it is, boys. You know, you live and you learn. I day 2'd an event, I guess. I went 9-5. Still a good result. Not super happy with it. Everyone told me I should be happy with it. Personally, I wasn't that happy. I was pretty pumped to be day 2, really, but I really wanted to 5-0 day 2. There was another player who was like me, went 6-3, and he went 4-1 to get a top 16. And I just remember sitting there thinking, shit. Like, 1, I should have won 7 games on day 1. No, my rounds 6 and 7 in particular, I threw. Not trying to take anything away from my opponents. I think I just played bad, like really bad. And then day 2, yeah, I know. I think I played really good for essentially all 5 games. I just ran into like one team that was really hard to beat. And I had to like use a lot of brain power to get through 4 Trick Room teams, which when you're playing like Chiyu Hyper Offense, beating Trick Room's not the easiest thing in the world. But yeah, look, I've been here rambling on for far too long at this point. I hope you guys take something away from this. I don't know, just kind of talking about my run at the event. But yeah, anyway, boys, I'll have a showcase with the team probably tomorrow or the day after. And yeah, that's kind of it. Catch you in the next one. Peace.